A brief source topic here, then we're going to go to the clenbuterol rant. It's a little bit of the information coming out from DAZN in terms of, not really DAZN, I should say Canelo Kovalev. I should say Canelo Kovalev as a whole, because part of it's DAZN, part of it's Azteca TV in Mexico numbers I want to get to. So there's two aspects to the story. First off, let's talk about the DAZN aspect of the story, and that's in tandem with the whole intermission, right? The fact that they catered to a crossover fan base / MMA fan base, and on top of that, in this article from Sports Illustrated, they catered to the West Coast predominantly. And in this article, some of the analytics that Sports Illustrated got, it says that 75% of subscribers for Canelo come from the West Coast. So the more and more you dig into this, the more and more I understand why this intermission was made and why this decision was made. But man, the more and more I look at that 1 hour and 37 minute stat for that intermission, that's a big intermission for fights. Yes, I think the goal was the right move, and sort of reiterating points that we've already made, but damn, the process to sort of get to that end goal was a complete clusterfuck. And it pissed off the DAZN base in a way.
Yeah, and for me, that lands a little bit on Golden Boy, why they didn't have some float fights to fill that, even if they had I don't know, a couple of 8-rounders. Agreed. I know there's still a gap, but you can drag that out a little bit with a couple of fights still, and ease that pacing a little bit. And so I don't know why I know apparently Ryan Garcia knocking Duno out in the first fucking 30 seconds or whatever really did change the oh fuck, but just I don't know, get some prospects or some, what that card was.
Well, at the very least, I don't know why they just didn't re-air older fights that already happened on DAZN, because the live attendance is watching UFC 244. You're not worried about them necessarily, right? Because you called ESPN, you called Dana, and you made sure you paid them enough to at least show that fight to your live attendance audience, right? But the DAZN viewing audience, they're just watching promo package after promo package, Meta World Peace telling them to buy the pay-per-view when it's not a pay-per-view. Hilarious. Why not show the Evan Holyfield fight or what other fights were on the card?
Because that was about 30 seconds as well.
But I mean, just why not just start re-airing other prelim fights at least? Just do something here, because I guarantee you, everyone watching right then and there were not there at the beginning of the telecast watching the first fight that came on.
They could have said, guys, check this out over in the UK earlier today.
Or just air the Katie Taylor.
What a great fight between Felix Cash and Jack Cullen.
Ooh, I would have
check
liked that.
This action out, and everyone goes, fuck that. Who's these British bums?
I wonder if that gets into a cross of the zone should have complete access to that, but if it's a Golden Boy card versus a Matchroom card, I just wonder here if they can air footage. They should be able to, but
it's their footage,
right? I would assume
got
so.
Rights to it, so
it's Golden Boy, man. They're petty. Who knows? Other aspect of the story: the free TV ratings from Mexico via Barbosa Box on ESPN, on Twitter, and from ESPN, saying Televisa did 11.9 million, Azteca TV did 19.7 million, and the Garcia Duno co-main event 13 million on Azteca and 9 million on Televisa. So it's not surprising, because Canelo always does massive numbers in Mexico, but again, massive numbers for Canelo in Mexico. Not really a shocker. Guys, any thoughts on the Canelo Kovalev analytics? The whole West Coast audience being the audience that subscribes for Canelo, not East Coast. To me, not a shocker, just pure demographics. Make that a really easy thing to understand, I feel like. For those maybe I need to spell out, Canelo is Mexican, so he therefore is a draw to the Mexican or Mexican-American demographics, and those are largely in the Southwest or West Coast of the U.S. East Coast Latinos are largely Puerto Ricans or Cubans or other Caribbean markets.
I just had a question in reference to those numbers, for the Jacobs fight. Jacobs being a New Yorker, were the numbers? Did he have better? Did it have better numbers on the East Coast for that fight? Because my initial reaction was that was a bigger fight, but I don't know if it'll do better because more people have DAZN now. Yeah, so I was just wondering if you had those demographics for the Jacobs fight.
No, I do not. For the DAZN analytics, no, I do not.
Right.
No, I do not. It was more of an all-encompassing, hey, our subscribers for Canelo that from the language, it sounded like from the Canelo-Jacobs fight, these are the people that stayed for Canelo. 75% of them are from the West Coast. That's how I read it on the Sports Illustrated article. I'll post the link in the live chat for those that want to read it.
That makes you think, like, because it looked like it sold pretty well, Canelo fielding in MSG. Like, should they take Canelo more to the East Coast and try and, see if they can build a...
It's at a point now where, like, it's like a Mayweather fight. Like,
doesn't matter.
You can only put it in Vegas because it's going to generate the most money. He's too big of a star. I mean, maybe you could put him at the Garden, but you're going to lose some money. You can hope you can get it back in other ways. But, the MGM Grand or the T-Mobile, they're going to pay such a big site fee because it's going to bring in all those gamblers that...
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I just wondered if that gets DAZN some more East Coast subs. If you put in on a prime time East Coast time Canelo fight, I feel the opponent is maybe, but
I feel like in some aspect you should just like stay in your lane in a sense, right? Like Canelo is geared toward the Southwest and West Coast of the U.S. Like that's just what he's meant for. To force him in the New York or East Coast market may be just forcing a situation that's not really there in a way. And maybe it does work in some aspect, but probably largely that's not your avenue for East Coast sports fans. Maybe it's something else. I don't know what that something else is, but I would assume it has to be something else.
Yeah.
I think that was Eddie Hearns' plan for Jacobs. Like I really think in his heart of hearts, he thought Jacobs was going to beat Canelo, and then Jacobs would be that star on the East Coast, right?
Or at the very least,
just didn't happen.
Or at the very least, just Jacobs' star would rise.
Yeah.
And it never did. Unfortunately,
but we've established that you guys don't give two fucks. You haven't got a heart, so the whole
us have heart. Hey, we love Canelo.
I don't love. I mean, I don't dislike him. I just like I need to root for. I'm starting to like Canelo more because of what he's doing, but like I'm not a Canelo.
You know why? Because Gary doesn't hang out with enough Latinos.
That's not true, but okay.
Or at least enough Latinos that love Canelo. I'll put it that way. You hang out with Triple G Latinos.
But and I believe the delay allowed, was it like 100,000 existing subscribers to log in? Because I
didn't see that number, but I can look back on it. Was it in the Sports Illustrated article?
No, that was I think that was in the Athletic. Like it was a DAZN spokesperson said. I think.
Okay, I'll look for that maybe some other time. But
apparently 100,000. It allowed 100,000 like ish existing subscribers to log in and say whether they were watching the UFC fight as well, and then they realized Canelo hasn't even fought yet. Oh, cool! Log in and watch Canelo.
And just to that point, like there are certain sporting events that are more geared toward an East Coast market and audience than a West Coast market, and vice versa. Canelo fights will always be geared towards more of a West Coast audience, so it's not surprising that it was on very late for the East Coast, but for the West Coast, it's still 10 o'clock when that fight came on, 10:30. And that's not a big deal on the West Coast, but for the East Coast, for the 3-hour difference, it is. But sorry, I mean,
get that thick skin.
I think again the fact that they punted to the UFC is not a big concern. Though shout out to Brian Campbell and Chuck Mendenhall on Mortal Kombat. Check out that show. Brian Campbell of CBS and State of Combat, also that show as well. He, I think, did a really good argument and had a good argument for why this is an issue for boxing. But in my opinion, I'd sort of disregard that argument. I don't think it's a big issue. I don't think it's as much of a concern that boxing has to share space with other combat sports for the U.S. sporting audience. Sorry. And I know maybe it's a shock that a guy like Canelo Status had to do that for guys like Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, and boxing heads are going to look at their resumes and go, what the fuck is going on? But sorry, if anyone with any clue in terms of online metrics and who is a bigger draw, what card is drawing more, you knew which card was the behemoth of the night. And unfortunately, it wasn't Canelo Kovalev. It did half the amount of Google searches as UFC 244. That's significant.
And that's fine, right?
Yes,
but, like,
and that's fine. Yes.
How much crossover? And look, I don't care. I'm not one of those guys who gets offended or triggered.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
if you're gonna put more eyes in front of boxing, I don't care how you do it. Like, I don't care if you. If you showed at the monster truck rally and you get those, I don't care. Just put more eyes in front of boxing. Just if you can create one more fan, that's great. So I don't care about that. But like, how much crossover? And you know, because you follow both sports, is there really between those two sports?
I wouldn't say that much. I would say it's definitely a minority. What that minority is, I don't know. I don't have data to support this, but I would say it's like 10, 15% is a shared audience.
I think DAZN's Joe Markowski said something like 10% or something along those lines. If I remember, he said it's not as big as some people are making that.
But see, here's the thing: like for DAZN, like what they have isn't really for crossover fans. Like Bellator is a clear second tier product to the UFC, in more ways than I can probably argue on the show. And if DAZN largely has a second tier product comparative to, let's say, more hardcore offerings for boxing, right? Which really DAZN has. I mean, obviously they have Canelo fights, which is maybe AJ fights, which aren't for hardcores, but largely a lot of the DAZN's boxing offerings is more for the hardcore base, right? Am I wrong in that? No, we're all agreeing there? Okay.
I would say so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Casual isn't worried about the Sky Sports Next Gen.
Of course. Or a New Way Donaire. In 12 hours, which I have to stay up for a live fight chat, then go to a press conference in 4 hours afterwards.
I was going to ask you, are you going to stay up for that? Or are you going to go to sleep and then wake up?
I still don't know, but I am doing a live fight chat. So in the middle of the night tonight, vampire stream something. I'm going to be awake with a bunch of coffee. Help me, please. Somebody stay in the chat with me and keep me company. And
I'll be on my lunch break, so
you guys don't have to come. I'll just do it solo. I'm not asking any of you.
I'll be in the chat. I'll hang out.
No. But I mean, like, to be on the show. I'm not asking any of you guys to suffer like me. I'm doing this. It's okay. I'll bite the bullet. But
I was trying to wait. I'll get on it. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to watch it in the morning.
Gary, don't worry about it.
But Gary, I thought you were always awake at fucking 4 a.m. That's when you do all your work.
No,
it starts at 5, which is usually the time I go to bed. Right?
Wait, you go to bed at 5?
3, 5, sometimes 9 o'clock at night. It depends. I don't have like a normal person's schedule.
That's a huge range. 3 and 5, 9.
Yeah, 5 a.m., 9 p.m. I don't know. Just whenever.
Anyways, digressing. But I also have to but I have to go to the KSI Logan Paul press conference.
You'll be running. You know it. You can't wait.
Oh, my God. But that's, I think, really early in the morning, too. So, God,
you're going to be cranky.
I'm going to be so cranky. These are going to be great. But digressing from that, I forget what I was going to say. Oh, DAZN. What was I getting at? DAZN offering more of a hardcore content to... I totally forget. We got off on a tangent with Gary and sleeping at 5 p.m.
I don't know what you're going to say.
I don't know either. But digressing from that point that I forgot I was going to make. Sorry, guys.
It was probably going to make people press the thumbs down anyway, so don't worry about it.